On Wednesday, China successfully launched the Zhangguo 2 rocket and became the first country to ever launch a methane powder rocket into space. This achievement left everyone, including prominent names like SpaceX, owned by Elon Musk, and Blue Origin, owned by Jeff Bezos, behind. The Chinese company Landspace surpassed all the other space-leading companies with this innovation. On the 12th of July 2023, China became the first country to make the less polluting, cheaper, and safer rockets in the world. The Landspace company is a private company, and you might have never heard its name. After years of working, this private company became the top leader in space technology with its new rocket. The rocket uses methane liquid oxygen as fuel. The Zhangguo 2 took off at 9 a.m. from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center, which is located in northwest China's Inner Mongolia region. According to the media reports shared by China, the rocket took off as planned without any errors. The launch of this rocket was a second attempt, and with this successful attempt, Landspace has beaten the rival companies from the US and many other nations. It is important to know that no one has ever been able to use methane as a fuel for a rocket. The space firms have wished to, but no other space company has been able to do that. Using methane as a rocket fuel comes with a lot of benefits, and we will also talk about that in depth. You must be wondering why ordinary fuel is replaced by methane. Methane-powered rockets are the answer to most of the space problems, and we will cover that by the end of the video. Firstly, it is important to know the mission of the spacecraft sent by China. We will also discuss how the Chinese company Landspace, which most of you never heard about, made such a huge achievement. The launch of the methane-powered rocket placed China ahead of SpaceX and Blue Origin. The space-leading companies were working on switching to methane as a fuel, but many changes were required to be made to use methane. And before any other nation could do that, China did it. The pictures of launching the rockets were also shared on Twitter and were praised worldwide. According to further information provided by Chinese sources, the rocket travels in a pair. Firstly, one of the two rockets is sent to space carrying the space equipment. The rocket will land on the surface of the moon, and then another rocket will be sent carrying the astronauts. After completing the moon's orbit, the Chinese astronauts will enter the lunar lander and descend on the surface of the moon. But why are the rockets sent in pairs? It is difficult to transport the astronaut and the spacecraft on the same rocket, but sending them one by one makes it a lot easier. Also, the equipment that is carried in a single rocket is limited. For a long mission, more equipment and goods are required. This pair of rockets will solve this problem. A lot of items can be carried by this rocket, as well as the astronaut. Most of the time, another rocket is sent and it travels back to the Earth, and this costs a lot of money. It's because when the astronaut returns, they again need the rocket to carry back items to the Earth. But the pair of rockets will help the astronaut distribute the weight. It will become easier to stay for long, and while returning, the second rocket will also carry the items again. The mission of the rocket is to take the astronauts to the moon. The astronauts will collect samples, and after that, they will be transported back to the Earth. China aims to research the moon. In 2020, China first stepped on the moon and became the third nation after the US and Soviet nations to ever land on the moon's surface. This rocket will allow the Chinese astronauts to do their research on the moon and take samples to the world to work further. The Landspace company also became the second country to ever launch liquid propellant rockets in space. Now the question is, how was the private company able to make such a huge achievement? In 2014, China took the space firm seriously, and ever since it has not taken its eye off the sectors. The government has provided much help to the companies. It has ever provided large investments to private space companies, urging them to work even harder. The Chinese companies are not pampered like SpaceX and Blue Origin by the world, but from the government. They take a lot of support. Many people didn't know about this Chinese company, which only means that China does not highlight a company without any achievements. It does not believe in creating a positive image without any actions at all. But when it comes to providing support, the government never fails to do it. What makes Chinese companies achieve a lot is the Chinese people's attitude toward technology. The institutes in China are creating engineers, and that is what makes China proud. No other nation has been able to make such achievements as the Chinese people made in such a short period. It was the people's hard work that made the Chinese private company make the methane-fueled rocket. But the question is, why is methane being used as a fuel to the rockets? Does it provide any benefits? Using methane as a fuel provides a lot of benefits. The most important aspect that makes methane the best rocket fuel is its price. It is comparatively cheaper than any other fuel used for the rocket. This causes a decrease of millions of dollars in the ride. Not only that, obtaining this fuel is much easier than any other fuel out there. It is much more convenient than all other fuels. Millions of tons of barrels of fuel are used for each ride and buying. The other fuel is very expensive. On the other hand, methane is available easily and is cheap, thus it will save millions of dollars. But these are not the only benefits of using methane as fuel. Another aspect that makes it the best option is that it's less harmful to the engine. When the rocket goes into space, its engine burns, and all other fuels make the engine covered with burns. It is very difficult to use the rockets again. The engine does not perform as well as it did the first time. Not only this, it cost a lot of money to reuse the engine. According to Elon Musk, it cost $90 million to make the rocket reusable. This is a drawback of ordinary fuel. The reason why nations rarely take space rides is because of the cost and effort. The high cost of fuel and the money required to just make the rocket again reusable makes the space journey a tough job. And that's why space races are not everyone's cup of tea. But using methane is a solution to all these problems. Making the rocket reusable if methane was used in the engine makes it a lot easier. Cleaning the engine is easy because the methane does not do great harm to the engine like other fuels do. Thus, it saved the space sector from spending $90 million on making the rocket reusable. Only China has become able to make a rocket that will use methane as fuel. All the other nations are still thinking about it and are spending a lot of money. It is still not confirmed when other companies will also start using methane as fuel. But China has left all the space leaders behind this time. In 2015, NASA also mentioned the benefits of methane-powered engines and stated that it will also use methane. But no accomplishments are made yet.